If you liked the video, feel free to subscribe. It would really help the channel, and we have battle reports, boarding actions, and list videos every week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. World Eaters 1000 point list. This is the first video covering the World Eaters on the channel, and I'm still not even sure if I will focus a lot on the World Eaters. It just depends on how this does. And I always say that depends on how it does just because I'm trying to grow the channel, and sometimes when you introduce new factions, they just do terrible. Even if you kind of put up more video after video, it takes a while. It took a little while to get the Grey Knights to start sticking, so we'll see how the World Eaters do, see how much interest in there, because there is quite a bit of channels already covering the World Eaters, and I don't really want to be regurgitating a bunch of stuff. So today's video is an overview of 1000 point list of the World Eaters using that Berzerker Warband detachment. I'll go through the detachment rules, some of the stratagems, and a unit breakdown of how this detachment benefits these units in the list. Let's look at the World Eaters army rule and then the detachment rule. Blessing of Kharn is our army rule. If your faction is World Eaters, at the start of the battle round, you can make a Blessing of Kharn roll. To do so, you roll those 8d6, and then you can use those dice to activate up to 2 blessings, and you can only activate each Blessing of Kharn once per battle round. Any of those unused dice are just discarded. And this is an army-wide buff as long as they have that Blessing of Kharn ability. And here's our Blessing of Kharn chart. You can have any double for add 2 movement to your characteristic of your models, any double for a 6-up Feel No Pain, and if your data sheet already has a Feel No Pain, we add 1 to that Feel No Pain roll. And this is one I really like. I use this pretty much every battle round. A double 3 melee weapons have the Sustain Hits 1 ability. Any double 4 or any triple, you can actually have a Fight on Death on 4+. Double 5 or any triple melee weapons have Lethal Hits ability. And then finally, one of the better ones, double 6 or triple 4+, your entire army will get Advance and Charge. The detachment rule for the Berzerker Warband, Relentless Rage. Each time World Eaters unit from your army is selected to fight, if that unit has made a charge move this turn, add 1 to the strength and attack characteristic of the melee weapons equipped by models in that unit. And here is my 1000 point World Eaters list using the Berzerker Warband, the only detachment we can use. 995 points. Our Warlord is Kharn the Betrayer. Our battle line, we have a 10-man unit of Jakhals with a Skull Smasher and some Chain Blades in there. A unit of 5 Kharn Berzerkers with the Eviscerator, Icon of Kharn, 2 Plasma Pistols. For our other data sheets, we have a unit of 3 8-bound, 2 with the Eviscerators, 1 with the Lacerator. 2 units of 3 Exalted Eightbound, and they all have Eviscerators and Chain Fists. A unit of 2 World Eaters Chaos Spawn. Our dedicated transport, we have a World Eaters Rhino with that Combi Weapon, Havoc Launcher, and Combi Bolter. And for our allied unit, we have a Dog Huntsman for that Demon's Breath Melta Gun and that Demon's Breath Spear to add a little bit of ranged anti-tank to this list. With this list, you can drop Kharn and drop those World Eaters Chaos Spawn, take another unit of Jakhals, and then you could fit a Master of Executions instead of Kharn the Betrayer. It's up to you. I like Kharn just because that Fight on Death, but I can understand since the Master of Executions does have that Fights First ability. Now let's quickly go over the 6 stratagems for that Berzerker Warband. Apoplectic Frenzy for 1 CP just gives you auto advance of 6. Blood Offering, this is a good one. This one, if your unit is destroyed on an objective marker, you can use for 1 CP and you can sticky that objective. Great for if you're running up the board, try to stay on objective, so if you do get shot off the board, you can sticky an objective. For the Blood God, for 1 CP, in the fight phase, if you destroy a unit, you can use the stratagem to get a 3rd Blessing of Kharn. So you roll the 8 dice and you take a 3rd one. For the Skull Throne, for 1 CP, in the fight phase, +1 to wound against character, monster, and vehicle units. It's pretty good on your Exalted Eightbound. Gory Massacre, I don't use this one a lot, but there is some times where it can be situational and really turn the tide for you. It's in the fight phase after you destroyed a unit. For 1 CP, you use this, and then in the next command phase for your opponent, every unit within 6 inches of that unit that used this Gory Massacre, they have to take a Battle Shock test. Kharn cares not for 2 CP, also in the fight phase, to subtract 1 from the damage of any incoming attacks. This is expensive, but it can keep your units alive in melee combat against some of those strong melee armies. Now on to our unit breakdown. We'll start with our Warlord, Kharn the Betrayer, and his Berzerkers. Kharn and friends will start inside the Rhino, and that Rhino does have firing deck too, so he can shoot 2 of those plasma pistols in the unit to do a little bit of extra range. The Berzerkers are Strength 6, Toughness 4, 3 Save, 2 Wounds, 6 Leadership, and OC of 2. So that Space Marine profile. The shooting weapons aren't really anything special. You do have bolt pistols. The plasma pistols can come in handy, but it's not something you're going to count on. And our melee weapons, the Berzerker Chainblade has 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 5, AP 1, damage 1. And if we charge, that'll be 5 attacks at strength 6. And the Kharn Eviscerator is 3 attacks, hit on 3s, strength 8, AP 2, damage 2. And once again, if we charge, that'll go up to 4 attacks at strength 9. And then Kharn hits like a truck. He has pretty much the same profile as the Berzerkers. He has a movement of 6, a toughness of 4, a 3-up save with a 4-up invulnerable, 5 wounds, leadership of 6, a 1 OC. He does have a Kharn plasma pistol, which luckily you can't overcharge and kill him with it. And then for his melee weapon, Gorechild. 8 attacks, hit on 2s, strength 6, AP 2, damage 3, and that's a big damage 3. That's really good for killing Terminators and other heavy infantry. And once again, if you charge with this unit, you'll have 9 attacks on strength 7 instead. And Kharn does have 3 abilities. Legendary Killer, if he's leading a unit, melee attacks, you get to reroll hits and wounds of 1 for the unit. Then we have the Betrayer at the end of the charge phase. If this unit is not within engagement range, you must take a leadership test, and if you fail that, you actually kill one of your Berzerker bodyguards. Then we have Berzerker Frenzy, which is one of the premier abilities he has. It allows him to fight on death in the melee phase. So if he gets charged or you charge something in and something goes wrong, you at least get to attack with Kharn, and Kharn does have those big 8 attacks, strength 6, AP 2, damage 3. So it's a lot of damage you can get on a fight on death with him. The Berzerkers have an ability, Blood Surge. Each time a unit is selected to shoot after that unit has finished making his attack, if any models from this unit were destroyed, you can make a Blood Surge move. So you roll a d6, and then this unit can be moved a number of inches up to the result of that dice, but this unit must finish that move as close as possible to the closest enemy unit. We can't use this if our unit is battle shocked, and as of the October 2024 balance, the unit can only do 1 Blood Surge movement per phase now, instead of multiple. This is a unit that loves for the Skull Throne for 1 CP. For +1 to wound into monster, vehicle, and character units, any light to medium infantry character units, we would be wounding that unit on a 2+ if we charged. Khorne Cares Not for 2 CP is expensive, but with 2 wounds each, -1 to the damage can mean the difference between losing a few models or losing the whole unit. And Kharn hits like a truck, a good choice to activate first to get a kill and then use for the Blood God to activate a 3rd blessing. Get +2 movement and advance in charge to get yourself off the board, and then once you've killed something, use for the Blood God to get a 6-up Feel No Pain just to help survive against the counterattack and all the shooting you're going to take in the next round. So this way you have a little bit of protection from that Feel No Pain while still getting that speed from the advance in charge +2 movement. And like I said, Blood Surge has been nerfed to only once per phase. We cannot rely on this for a bunch of extra movement. Next up is our Jakhals. These 10 Jakhals will hold our home objective. Their ability to stick an objective will be useful for those games we do not really need to stay on the home objective, allowing us to use this unit to sticky objectives in no man's land later on the game if we need to. They have the native 6-up Feel No Pain, so if we use that Blessing of Khorne, Wrath of Devotion, that 6-up Feel No Pain will turn to a 5-up Feel No Pain. They're not really a big melee threat. They are decent into low toughness targets, but with an average melee attack of strength 4, AP 0, damage 1, you're not really going to be killing much other than low toughness units. And it's not a unit I want to spend a lot of my CP on. Gory Massacre for 1 CP could be used to take advantage of that large unit size for that 6-inch Battle Shock aura, but you would also have to kill a unit with this to even be able to use Gory Massacre. So it's probably something that's not going to happen a lot. The 8-bound has a 6-inch Scout. Being the only unit with Scout, I want to use the Scout move to push towards the center if able to. The 8-bound do not have the same damage threat of the Exalted 8-bound. 8-bound, however, bring more utility with that Scout, then they have a good ability for helping the rest of the army. Let's take a quick look at the 8-bound datasheet. Movement of 9, toughness of 6, 3-up save with a 5-up invulnerable with our 3 wounds, leadership of 6, OC of 1. No ranged attacks at all, and for the melee weapons, we have the Eviscerators, which is on 2 of these guys, so it's 6 attacks, strength 5, AP 2, damage 2, and then we also have the Lacerator on the champion, 4 attacks, all of them hitting on 3s, strength 9, AP 2, damage 3. Then we have the abilities, Beacons of Rage. While a friendly World Eater's unit is within 6 inches of this unit, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, reroll the wound roll of 1. And if that attack targets a unit that is below half strength, reroll the whole wound roll instead. The Beacons of Rage aura is another reason I move this unit towards the center. I want to get that reroll wounds aura to help pressure that center objective. And not a unit I will use a lot of stratagem support on. I want this to be a secondary scoring utility unit. We can use that 6-inch auto advance if we need to get in positions to spread that Beacons of Rage of aura, but other than that, I'll probably be using the damage ones on Exalted Eightbound. The weapon profile is better for hunting down light to medium infantry units. The lacerator on the champion helps make sure we reliably kill such targets. Hunt down light infantry units. Activate this unit first if you need to get for the Blood God to get that third blessing of Kharn to help boost the output of the rest of the army. Next up is our 2 units of 3 Exalted Eightbound. These are our anti-tank units, while being able to do heavy damage to light to medium targets as well. And this is one of the best units in the World Eaters Index. Has a lot of synergy with the Blessing of Kharn. Wrathful Devotion for that 6-up Field of Pain turns into a 5-up Field of Pain. Rage, Field of Invigoration, and Unbridled Bloodlust blessings can give the Exalted Eightbound a huge threat range with that +2 to move, and then advance and charge. Throw a Apoplectic Frenzy in there for an auto 6-inch advance. You can have a big 17-inch move and then charge. Kharn Cares Not for 2 CP is helpful to keep them alive in the fight phase, doing that -1 to incoming damage in the fight phase. For the Skull Throne for 1 CP will help smash out vehicles and character units for +1 to the wound roll. They can also sticky objectives with Blood Offering if the unit is killed on an objective. And let's talk about the Overwhelming Wrath ability. The Overwhelming Wrath ability, each time an enemy unit is within 6 inches of this unit and is selected to fall back, that unit must take a leadership test. And if that test is failed, that unit must remain stationary in this phase instead. And this ability is what helps keep this unit safe in the opponent's shooting phase. If we stay in engagement range and the enemy unit fails that leadership test, the Exalted Eightbound will be much safer in the opponent's shooting phase. This ability is key to unlocking a lot of great plays for the World Eaters. The unit also does have the Deep Strike ability. One unit does make a really good rapid ingress threat. Next up is our Chaos Spawn. The World Eaters Chaos Spawn is a really good unit for us, even more so in these smaller games. It has a movement of 8, toughness of 5, a 4-up save, and 4 wounds. And those 4 wounds is pretty big. There are no ranged weapons, only 1 melee weapon, hideous mutations, d6 +2 attacks, hit on 4s, strength 6, AP 1, damage 2. The abilities is really where this thing shines. Feel No Pain +5, so if you are using the 6-up Feel No Pain blessing, that will be up to a 4-up Feel No Pain, since if you have a Feel No Pain ability, that blessing just adds 1 to it. And then Regenerating Monstrosities. The start of each player's command phase, 1 model in the unit regains D3 lost wounds. Unlike the Chaos Space Marine Chaos Spawn, ours has an OC of 1. They do hit quite hard if we roll well on the D6 +2 attacks. And like I said, that Rage, Field, Invigoration will bring our 5+ Feel No Pain to a 4+ Feel No Pain. And this unit will make a great unit for holding an objective in no man's land, since they do need some focus attacks to kill. You can't just kill these things with some small arms pitter-patter shots. And if they are killed in the shooting phase, we can use Blood Offering for 1 CP to sticky that objective. So there's a lot of utility with these units. Great for doing secondary actions as well. It's very hard to kill these with small arms fire. So it'll take dedicated damage to stop us from doing some actions with these Chaos Spawn. With 2 models in the unit, toughness 5, 4 wounds, that 4-up save, with a possible 4-up Feel No Pain, and then heal D3 lost wounds at the start of each player's command phase, these things are going to be a pain to take out. Now for our dedicated transport, the World Eaters Rhino, the taxi for our Warlord Kharn and his Berzerkers. It's not super tough, but it does add some speed and armor to the Berzerkers, and with the change to surge moves, they will have to rely on the Rhino to get them up the table. We can't just blood surge them across the board multiple times per opponent's shooting phase now. You can only move them once. It does have some low strength shooting to chip away at some low toughness units. And we can use that auto advanced 6 stratagem, Apoplectic Frenzy, and the Rage, Field, Invigoration blessing for +2 movement to get this Rhino moving a big 20 inches. Really helpful when staging for future turns. It does have firing deck too as well, so you can shoot 2 of the Berzerkers plasma pistols that are there if you want to as well in the shooting phase. Then last, our allied unit, the War Dog Huntsman. I put the Huntsman in my list to give me a bit of ranged anti-tank threat. It has good speed with some credible anti-tank attacks with that Melta-Gun and the Demon's Breath Spear. The movement of 12 will help this Chaos Knight get up the board and get line of sight on any monsters and vehicles if I need to in turn 1 or early turn 2. The list is still a mainly infantry list. Use the Knight to take out those damage 3 shooting units. Negate the amount of 8-bound killing weapons on the board. Don't take out the things that are going to take out the knight. Take out the things that are going to take out your infantry. Because once the knight's gone, and if you just have a whole bunch of Exalted 8-bound up there and they just have a few las cannons, who cares about that? You just don't want to take those blast weapons that are damage 3. Those will rip apart our 8-bound. Take those out first of the night, and then we'll be smooth sailing. The Huntsman ability also gives the War Dog reroll hits and reroll wounds of 1 into monsters or vehicles, which is what we want to be targeting anyway. The Huntsman will not benefit from any of the World Eater's army or detachment rules, but for 145 points in a 1,000 points game, I think this War Dog will give a lot more options. The speed and high OC can be used to flip objectives well. 8 OC, a movement of 12, so I think this will give us a lot of utility and give the opponent some more decisions to make. The range in these weapons are only 12-inch and 24-inch, but it does give us some shooting, especially that Demon's Breath Spear, 24 inches, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 12, AP 4, D6. And it's melt of 4, so you add 4 damage if you're within 12 inches. Being within 12 inches would actually get you within 12 inches for your melt gun as well. This thing can actually punch through some armor, especially with AP 4, melt of 4. For the game plan for this list, I want to use the speed of this list to pressure the enemy. We do not want to try for those turn 1 charges unless they present themselves. We just want to pressure, get on some points, and then try to keep them in their own deployment zone just by keep on throwing units at them, keeping the pressure while we rack up the points. Pressure with the goal in gaining points, not just to kill. I would rather in turn 1 to use the World Eater speed to get control of objectives and stage for turn 2. Just because we can attempt a turn 1 charge does not mean we need to make a turn 1 charges. Just 9-inch charges, if you're trying to bank on those for some big turn 1 charges, they're probably going to fail and they're going to be stuck out in the wind. The 8-bound can scout 6 inches and pressure the center of the board early. The Chaos Spawn can be used to grab an objective in no man's land as well. We may want to put one of our Exalted 8-bound in reserves just so you can have that rapid ingress deep strike threat, since the Exalted 8-bound do have deep strike, and that Chaos Knight will give our opponent more decisions to make. Do I shoot the knight coming from my tanks, or do I shoot the 8-bound in my lines? Just because we do have a knight in there and it will be able to do some decent anti-tank and decent damage if it gets into melee. So it will give our opponents some decisions to make. This was my first World Eaters list overview. I tried to do a mix of reading stuff off the slides and my own thoughts. Try to make it more interesting, but not to go off topic too much and ramble on too much. And that's why I read off the slides quite a bit, because if not, I will go rambling, just get off topic. So I do like to read off these, but I'll try to kind of throw my own thoughts in there as well. I will do either a 2,000 points list next, but they're all quite the same right now. Possibly a 10 tips and tricks would be better for the World Eaters. I have a Grey Knights 1K list out soon as well. The Custodies are the main faction of the channel, but I would really also like to have another faction or two that I can make content for. Right now, I have the Grey Knights and the Custodies and the Salamanders, but right now the Space Marines aren't doing that hot, and they're just not getting a lot of love. Right now, it's finding the factions that I like and the algorithm likes as well. As much as I would like to have every faction on here, I just can't. And like I always say, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.